don't think it's going to pivot anymore.
Ćao društvo, ovdje Sebastian, a s moje druge strane, kao što vidite, nije Tajana, već jedan specijalni gost. Mi se nalazimo ovdje na Ample festivalu pod pokroviteljstvom Yandeksa i ovdje smo da naučimo nešto novo, upoznamo veoma zanimljive ljude, čujemo fantastična predavanja, a kao što sam malo prije spomenuo, sa moje druge strane nalazi se Benjaminom Keslerom.
Ono što vaš šarmantni i iskusni voditelj nije rekao u datom trenutku, a trebao je da je Benjamin solo poduzetnik koji je stručnjak za marketing i branding. Sad vas mogu vratiti epizodi. Hvala.
Did I say it right? Benjamin Keslerom?
Just okay. Benjamin is fine.
Just Benjamin, all right. So, Benjamin, I've heard so many fantastic things about you. I've read fantastic things about you, and your speech was absolutely magnificent, like gold. So,
thank you.
One interesting thing, my viewers already know that I'm a physicist that pivoted heavily into video, which was kind of weird. And you also are an engineer that pivoted into video and into branding and stuff. So my first question that's just out of my sheer curiosity is, what gives? How? Why?
Well, I think I've always been interested in business and entrepreneurship. I think where I studied in France, I don't know, there was this path that was like, oh, if you're not sure of what you do, you can always do engineer and then you'll find stuff. And I've always been interested in bridges and constructions and things like that. That has always been fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went into that path, not very intentionally. And with time, during my studies, I started a first business and then a second mini business, like micro businesses during studies. And then when I graduated, 6 years after after the master, I was like, I don't think I want to be an engineer. Yeah. And so I don't think I should call myself an engineer at this point. It's been too long. I have the degree, but I think I've always been interested in business in general, and kind of became a creative by mistake, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a mistake, but
okay. What aspect of business and thinking outside of the box and everything, what kind of drawn you to that side, coming from such a different aspect of business and work? And
well, I think it's still about finding solution to things.
Yeah.
It's about solving problems. Mm-hmm. Like when you're in engineering school and during the university, I mean, a lot of the work is still finding creative solutions to different problems. So to me, it has always been, what is the obstacle in front of me, and how can I find a creative solution? Like that third door, I don't know if you use that expression, but you always have the front door, the back door, and then the door that doesn't exist. And I'm always looking for that third door.
Absolutely.
To how can I?
Actually, our podcast is called something that could be translated as outside of the box, as in thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
So you are the perfect speaker for this. But listening to your speech, I can definitely see elements of the kind of scientific way of thinking being implemented in this. So that's actually my next question. How much of all the things that do you combine into your current work?
How much of all the...
From engineering, from every other aspect that from video content creation, everything.
I mean, you always pick up things along the way, and then you sort of keep the things that work, and the things that don't, you just let it go. And so I think over now it's been, I guess, 15 years or something like that, and I picked up a few tricks and starting to understand. So I keep I'm not emotionally attached to the art. I think that's when I talk to other creatives, I don't even know if I should call myself a creative, but when I talk to other people who are freelancing or creative or producing video content, I don't really care that it looks that amazing, or I don't really care that I'm looking at what am I trying to achieve, for what purpose. And so when you work with corporates, the value for you to produce things that are artistic is very low.
Yeah, I know
you
that.
spend a lot of money to achieve something that doesn't bring them value. However, if you bring the business case, and if you sort of bring video content within their business case, all of a sudden you can think about what can you produce that will have the most value for them, rather than what will be the most exciting artistically for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest difference that I've noticed in the end, is this approach of what is the value for the client and for their end customer, which is ultimately who they're showing the video to, rather than for myself.
Yeah. As a videographer, I've actually struggled quite a bit with that, because I was, studying what's nice, what's beautiful, what's cinematic, as the word goes.
Yeah.
And when I started working with clients a lot, I had problems with that. Like
can
I would
imagine.
over-focus on something that is kind of pretty, but it didn't bring the results that the client wanted. They're not focusing. They're not interested in that. So I had to kind of start to think differently and shift my focus as well, because you're not making a movie, you're making something else, and you need to think about it. You need to think about the nature of the product you're making. Yeah, definitely.
And that is very difficult, because for a lot of people who go into this field, they do it because they want to create amazing content. They do it because they want to create really interesting, cool videos. But then that's not what their current client, I guess that's not where some of the people who are willing to give them money for are actually looking for. And so it creates the disconnect between the sort of like creator, filmmaker, videographer, and the client and what they're actually looking for. And so like the more you can be on the same side, the more you're actually going to have freedom to innovate as a videographer.
No. One question. Since you don't have formal education in the line of work you're doing right now, what was your kind of personal threshold when you started to think that you're good enough to start working in that business? Because a lot of people I know, and myself included, often have way too long kind of a boundary and feeling inferior and kind of an imposter syndrome with that. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, honestly, it's a lot of... I come from a lot of privileged background, and so in that sense, I think a lot of the obstacle in front of me, I've always had this mindset that I can find that third door, because objectively speaking, I didn't have that much adversity to overcome. So it's a very unfair and very it makes it much easier to have done this myself. But I always try to look, I assume that I don't know anything, because ultimately I don't really. So my go-to response in my head is, what can the person in front of me teach me? And so as much as I can, when I'm in front of a client or a prospect, I will try to ask them questions, because they will tell you what they want. So I try, when you're creative and someone's like, okay, so how much does a video cost? Mm-hmm. And I have no idea. I don't know, what are you willing to pay? That's not a question that I can answer. However, I can ask them a lot of questions for them to understand, okay, this is what we're trying to do. This is the business case. This is what my boss wants. This is what my boss's boss wants. This is what the challenge we have in front of us when it comes to hiring candidates, to finding clients, etc. So I would say the short answer to your question is, I would say curiosity as much as you can. Try to ask as many questions as possible, and then you don't have to find the answer. You don't have to create the answer. You don't have to give the answer, because they will tell you what they want. And you just then need to learn how to provide what is the thing that they want. At least when you start, then of course you get some expertise.
Mm-hmm. Of course. You mentioned setting prices. That's also, in my opinion, one of the main symptoms of the imposter syndrome and everything
absolutely.
we've been talking about. How do you approach it? Besides asking questions, do you have other strategies or...
Yeah, I mean, asking question is still the number one thing that you should be doing. Like, I would say, like, the first 8 to-dos should be you asking questions. That is like literally you figuring out who is the decision maker, who's going to be impacted by this video, who's going to be impacted by that piece of content, and how. And so, like, asking as many questions as possible. That being said, when it comes to pricing, what I see most freelancers and most creatives do is that they will look at every line item that is a cost for them. So I have to buy a camera, I have to go to the location with my car, I have to park my car, and then on their invoice or their quote, they would put like, okay, parking costs 12 euros for the day, car fuel, 17 euro for the month, whatever, and they will put all this line item. But that's not something the client cares about. I mean, the client cares, are you going to deliver the value through your video? They don't care whether you park, they don't care whether you fly to the location, they don't care about this. So you have to figure out a way to price based on the value that it brings to the customers, not what it costs you. And it's very difficult because that is the normal thing to do. Like, you're like, okay, I'm buying a camera, it's costing me 1,000 euro. I need to at least get some money back for every shoot that I do, so I'm going to add 200 euro worth of equipment. But again, the client doesn't care what cameras you're using, unless they're themselves an artistic, creative person. But most of them, they don't care. They care whether or not you're going to be able to deliver an ad that is going to bring them candidate. They care whether or not you're going to be able to deliver an ad that is going to bring them clients or build authority. They don't care what camera you're using.
While you're thinking about, I brought 3 lights, I spent this amount of money on fuel and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not thinking about the expenses you're going through, but it's definitely...
It's a like, freelancers tend to think about a me problem instead of thinking of a client problem. So if you move from what is my problem and look at what is the customer willing to either pay, but more importantly, what is the value to the customer. And so you might be producing the same video, but for a client that is a 2-people startup, it might have a complete different value than for a 10,000 employee company that will use this video in a complete different way.
So let me give you a scenario. So if you have a 2-people startup and you are an aspiring videographer, for example, not talking about myself, but kind of talking about myself. Anyway, so if you want to go straight out, full on, and kind of show what you can do, is it, in your opinion, a mistake to go for higher quality just so you can achieve better clients? Or do you kind of tone yourself down a bit because it's a 2-people startup?
That's a very good question, actually. I always believe in delivering as high quality as you can.
Me too.
Regardless of how much you're getting paid. It's a risky play in that sense that it's going to cost you more than what you're getting at the beginning. But you need to, like, my mindset is like, okay, how can I over-deliver in this moment? Because these 2-people startup that you're trying to sell a video to, they might only be able to pay you 200 euro, 500 euro for that video. And for you, it's going to take you weeks to make it perfect.
Yeah.
But if you like deliver on that, like you start building your portfolio, you start being able to show this material to bigger clients. And so it's not, for them, it's a huge piece of work. It's maybe going to be their main video that they're spending half of their marketing budget on. And so you have to treat it as what is the value for the customer. And so you always do the production based on what is the value to the customer, in my opinion. Yeah,
and plus you are still getting the value. Maybe you're not getting the value in terms of money, but you're still getting the value in terms of stuff that you put in your portfolio, so you can also build yourself up. Because you still need to think about your career as well.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah. But that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, we were talking yesterday with other freelancers, creative, solopreneur, however you want to call it. And one of the things we were talking about is sometimes you come in at a certain price and then you're identified as that price. And so the client will never pay you more than like 2 or 3 times more what you've said the first time. So one of the things that I've often done is figure out a way to do the first project for free so that they don't have a price anchor. Because if you start giving a price in the first place, that's your price. That's now, you are identified as the €1,000 video guy, a €100 video guy. And it's very difficult. But if you do the first project, it can even be like such a thing. Like it can be that you invite them on your podcast. It doesn't have to be a corporate project for them. But if you show them their skill through something that is not money, then after that, you can have a conversation about the value directly rather than the costs.
Yeah, actually, I know a good friend of mine who went to a car show, and I think it was Bentley. He offered them to do photos and a few videos for free, and that absolutely launched his career.
Yeah, it's a very controversial advice in the creative world. People absolutely believe that they should get paid for their work, which is a more than reasonable thing to do. It's, again, I think this comes from like the ability to like not get paid for a certain amount of time through like your background. So if you have the ability to do it, it will launch your career, but it is not a popular advice out there. So and that's why I'm only saying like it's better for you to do something for free, a small thing for free, and then give your real price rather than doing something heavily discounted, because then you're never going to be able to reach your real price.
What do you think is the boundary, the threshold, until when do you do stuff for free? You know, because you'll
I
have
still
your
do
first
stuff for free.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I still
exactly
do stuff for
what
free.
I was
I'm like 8 years in. We have clients that are 5,000 employees, and I still do stuff for free for new prospects that I want to reach. But I don't do. I do it. I mean, now I have more freedom to do things for free. So I'm talking about the tactic, and it's a good tactic. So, like for example, one of the ways I got to have a new client was I invited one of the leaders to be on a mini talk show with me, like what you're doing with me, basically.
Yeah.
And we created a few videos out of this, and they were super happy about it. And it was like, how can you do this for us? And so this became like a really good way to get to meet someone rather than straight up asking them, can you buy this? They don't know what you can do. But with our field of work, you can show what you can do. And so that's how.
That's amazing. That's gold. Okay, thanks. One more question. Since, in my opinion, you approach your work very outside of the box, very creatively, in my opinion. What inspires you? Where do you find the ideas? How do you approach your job?
I consume a lot of content.
Okay.
And I try. So my clients are often like heavy B2B corporation. Like they're not necessarily like a small startup. And so let's say like I consume a lot of TikToks, I consume a lot of YouTube. We do like on YouTube, I'm going to look at specific people would be like Max Joseph, one of my good friend now, Alfredo, is always talking to me about like Max Joseph and how we can Max Joseph things. So it's basically like looking at inspiration outside of the corporate world and understanding what can we learn from these people. So if you look at Vox on YouTube, they do amazing content. Okay, how can we apply that to creating a case study? If you look at, personally, I'm obsessed with TikTok. I consume way too many hours of TikTok per week. But I learned so much from this. I learned like so many creative ideas that they come and like probably tone down, but then bring into the corporate world. So to me, there's a lot of, you can consume and it's not only videos actually. Like you can learn a lot through like written content and like transform that idea and bring a parallel into a video format. So I think it's just consume. Like to me, I just consume a lot of material, and I enjoy it even as a personal user. And my bookmark folder on social media is full of creative ideas. So on TikTok, you can save videos. So I have videos saved. I have like 45 different collection of
Me too.
like,
Absolutely.
this I can use for this I can use for that. This I'll be able to use for this. And then I go back to it from time to time and just do like sessions of consumptions of content.
That's awesome. So basically, I do the same thing. I've learned so much from film. I love film, but I use those techniques even in reels and stuff like that, which is completely on the opposite side of the videography spectrum. So it's very useful. One more thing. How do you find, since you're doing a job that is, well, let's say creative adjacent, how do you find the balance between your private life and your business life? Do you live your business, or how do you find and define the boundary?
Yes, I don't. It's terrible.
Me too.
I mean, okay, I used to be really, really bad at this.
Okay.
I have 2 kids, so I don't really have a choice. So I would say like, and also I live in Sweden, where there is like a high expectation of a work-life balance. So one of the good things is it's quite rare that people will schedule meeting past 4 p.m. in Sweden, like 5 p.m. let's say. Like it's quite rare because everybody go and pick up their kid at kindergarten at 4 p.m. Like I'm very often at the school to pick up my kids at 4 p.m. So that's kind of like where I try to put the limit. But obviously there is always things that like overflow. There are contacts in the US that contacts in the evening. So I think I'm pretty much the wrong person to ask. I don't have like, I enjoy what I do so much. I think it's such a, I love forming connections. We usually, when I connect with my clients, it's rarely on like the videos themselves. It's about like either the business outcome or themselves. Like it's about forming genuine relationship. And I can say like that I have formed real friendships with clients because we now are like basically on a texting level where we just like send each other things that are more closer to friendship than they are to client typical relationship. And that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, that organic approach is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not fake. It's like I genuinely enjoy working with these people. I mean, there is this guy on LinkedIn that I met on LinkedIn called Robin Daniels, and we basically now have a group chat about Taylor Swift, and we just chat about Taylor Swift all the time. Like
that's amazing.
So it's like, I think this is finding like common ground with your clients.
Plus, when you find something that you actually enjoy working on, I know from my experience that when I realized that I'm really into video, learning about it, even when I'm lying in bed and I've had such a bad day, and if I have like 5 more minutes, I'm gonna spend those 5 minutes learning something like how to mimic moonlight in a studio scenario or something like that. So I think that it's incredibly important that you love what you do.
But you learn also very passively. Like you can learn things very passively. It doesn't have to be that you watch a YouTube tutorial. It can just be like consuming content completely outside of your field and like getting inspiration from it.
Seeing something randomly somewhere and you're like, I'm going to use that.
Use this. Snap a picture.
Absolutely.
Like, ads on the subway. I love ads on the subway. I get a million inspiration to do. I can do this in video. I always get like, this I can do in video.
Yeah. Do you jot it down?
I take a lot of pictures and then I have like folders. It's every app that I own is bookmarkable, basically. There's a bookmark on everything at this point. There's a bookmark on my photo app, there's a bookmark on TikTok, there's a bookmark on Twitter, there's a bookmark on all of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is. I need to make a structure like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's very
they're
useful.
coming up with softwares now. Like
Yeah,
Notion is kind of your best friend. It's starting to become my best friend at this point.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been told that we're running short on time, but I'm definitely gonna pester you a bit more because I'm getting so much great advice from you.
Happy to share.
Thank you so much. It's been a
Thank you,
pleasure
Sebastian.
meeting you and having you here in our show podcast. And
I appreciate you reaching out.
Thank
Awesome.
you. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the festival.
Yes,
And
I will.
thank you so much.
Awesome.
Narode, hvala vam mnogo što ste poslušali. Ovo je bio Benjamin Kesler. Nadam se da vam je bilo fino, a u sljedećem podcastu vam dolazi Tajana sa također zanimljivim gostom. Vidimo se. Ćao!